I hate dust. I don't want it building up in my home. You let dust build up, and before you know it, you've got an army of
lizard people
plotting to take over.
Have you ever had a fever, and the only prescription was an action-adventure 2D hack-and-slash beat-em-up RPG Metroidvania platformer starring anthropomorphized animals in a fantasy setting?
Wait, what?
Dust is an indie game made by one guy, by the name of Dean Dodrell. Now usually when a game is made by one person, the graphics are really simple and retro. Because hey, it's one guy, you can't expect freaking Picasso every time. Jesus Christ, Dean! No, really, I think you might actually be Jesus Christ. You should probably look into that. This game is absolutely gorgeous, and almost entirely hand-drawn. Sometimes I just stood there and admired the scenery when there were no enemies around. Every area in the game is appealing in its own way. For example, check out the angry face on this random wall here.
I'm upset.
This game's worlds are filled with all kinds of these unique visual flourishes. The same thing can also be said about enemies. Like, look at these giant baddies. In most games, these guys would just use the same design, but here we have rock giants, slime giants, and even wood giants. They don't actually act any different, it's just a nice bit of extra detail. Oh yeah, and this game also has fully animated character portraits. Speaking of characters though, what's up with Emo Samurai and his flying weasel over here? Well, this is Dust. He's an amnesiac who wakes up in the middle of the woods wearing a pretty radical hat. All we really know about him is that he totally massacred a village of people at one point. So that's cool, I guess. When he wakes up, he's greeted by a magical talking sword known as the Blade of Ara, and the sword's guardian and resident quirky sidekick, Fidget. Ara acts as the game's guide and the group's voice of reason, while Fidget often acts as comedy relief. But don't worry, she's not that kind of comedy relief. You know what I'm talking about.
Have a nice trip. See you next fall.
She knows when to be serious and is genuinely likable and funny. Dust's deadpan and Fidget's lighthearted antics lead to some hilarious interactions. The two of them have great chemistry together. You know, if a chemistry lab exploded.
I'm proud of you, Dust. Of course, if you said no, I'd need to bite your face off.
Charming as always, Fidget.
It's the best. While Dust and Fidget's dialogue is definitely one of the game's highlights, they aren't the only characters you'll come across. Like the game's antagonist, Furry Hitler. He really hates lizard people. You could almost say that he's a cold-blooded killer. Genocide. And look, it's schizophrenic green dude. And we can't forget the merchant from Resident Evil 4.
Ah, he'll buy them at a high price.
Well, yes. Yes, I will.
Oh, never mind. I guess the game has that joke covered, apparently. Also, I love that guy's voice. He's actually portrayed by Xander Mobus, who you might recognize as the announcer from Smash 4. On another note, music. This game's soundtrack is one of the few things here not made by Dean Dodrell. It was actually created by Hyperduck Studios, and I must say, they did a phenomenal job. These tracks are absolutely epic. I know that's a bit of a cliche word to use, but it really is the most accurate. Its overall tone fits with the game's awe-inspiring visuals and intense combat to a T. Speaking of which, this game's fighting system is quite a marvel. It's smooth, stylish, and satisfying. The action is fast-paced and responsive. It's all around a good time. As Fidget would say,
Have you seen the screen? He just goes.
combat is relatively simple. There are your average things like sword combos, dodges, and parries, but the most unique aspects of this game's combat are the magic system and combo meter. In regards to magic, Dust himself couldn't bippity-boppity boop his way through Hogwarts, but luckily Fidget can lend a hand. Unluckily though, it isn't exactly spectacular.
That was, very pretty.
But if you mix it up with Dust's special Dust Storm move, the results are definitely a marked improvement. You have to be careful though, using Dust Storm for too long makes you sock yourself in the face, not to mention that your magic is tied to a limited magic meter, so use them both wisely. The mystical arts are especially great for filling your combo meter. It tracks how many hits you've dealt in a fight, and once the battle is over you get an experience bonus for how high the combo is. If you get hit at any point in the battle, however, your combo completely resets, so be careful. Speaking of experience points, this game is filled to the brim with RPG elements. First and most obviously is the level system. Every time you level up, you can place a skill gem into one of 4 slots: health, power, defense, and magic. I always go with Fidget's magic, because, well, you know. There are also tons of items you can discover and use for things like side quests and crafting. If you want to craft though, you're gonna have to collect certain materials from downed enemies like scrap metal or
The souls of the damned.
you know, things like that. Of course, you can't just walk over to your local Kmart to buy imp claws, or at least last I checked. So, I guess that means copious amounts of grinding, right?
Wrong!
You can sell materials to Merchant McGee over here, and he'll slowly stock more of that item for you to purchase over time. How convenient! While you're waiting, there are plenty of side quests to take on, treasures to collect, etc. Side quests can lead you to explore entirely new areas, or have you scour the land for hidden items, and maybe sheep. Or they just make you grind or buy materials. One of these things is substantially less entertaining than kill me. But they all give you free stuff and more Dust and Fidget dialogue.
Wait, did you just... Did you just put that thing in your inventory?
Yeah? What?
Okay then.
So that's A-okay in my book. If treasure hunting is more your shtick, then you'll have your work cut out for you. There are chests hidden everywhere, and each one requires a key to open, which are also hidden. And look at how satisfying it is to open these things. Game feel.
I'm excited.
But even that isn't as exciting as finding one of these things. These extremely well hidden cages require many keys to open, but when you do, you get a huge HP bonus and a special appearance by an indie character, like Indiana Rudolph or the Red Square. If you're up for more challenges, keep an eye out for Cerulean Trials. These gauntlets rank you depending on how efficiently you can get through them. Getting 4 stars on each one is difficult, but incredibly satisfying. I did it! Plus, you get some free items. Of course though, since this game is a Metroidvania, you won't be able to get to all this stuff at the first run through of an area. Sometimes it's obvious when you need to backtrack later, like with these vines or these slidey holes, but sometimes it frankly isn't. So let me do you a favor, if something looks like you need to double jump to reach it or there's an upward gust of wind around, the game has you covered on that later. Don't run around the same room for like 45 minutes like I did. It's a dark and lonely road, both figuratively and literally. That also leads me to a second problem. This game doesn't have the best fast travel system, and sometimes you have to go to annoyingly long links to backtrack to an area. Slowly running around, plowing through countless boringly underleveled enemies when you just want to get some treasure you missed. Just a reminder that this doesn't apply to when you first run through everything. I'm just saying backtracking could have been a bit less of a hassle if there were more ways to enter any given area. Ask your doctor if backtracking is right for you. Of course, I'm one to complain. It couldn't have been that bad, considering I enjoyed it overall so much that I completed the game 100%. Wait, did I say 100%? I meant 117%. Yeah, I don't know why it goes that high either, just roll with it. Really though, the 2 flaws I mentioned aside, this game works in nearly every conceivable way. And I kinda love it. I mean seriously, I have a Fidget plushie dangling on my mic as I'm recording this. If you want to get the full Dust experience, I'd recommend playing it on PC or PlayStation 4. You can also buy it for Xbox 360, but this game demands to be played in HD with 60 frames per second. Granted, you'll run the risk of making your eyes bleed from pure wonderment, but that's the risk you need to take for art. Thanks for watching my review. If you enjoyed it, then like or leave a comment. I would really appreciate it. And a special thanks to everyone who watched my first 2 reviews. The response was better than I ever could have imagined. Thank you. Psst, as a special bonus, here's a joke I couldn't fit into the video.
Another one bites the dust.
Get it? Because his name is you know what, I'll shut up now.